So this is the second portion of the interview. We're going to talk now about, if you've watched the first portion, we talked about undergrad experience, transitioning from undergrad to the Caribbean from Canada, and my experience in the U.S. to whatever Caribbean island. I was in Curacao, you guys are in Dominica, and now we're talking about leaving the island after completing basic sciences and then now transitioning to the U.S. for clinical rotations. So for my school, it's more of complete basic sciences, take step one, then start rotations. Did they make you guys do a review program? I know we had to do one. Like, that was our MD5. So like I did Kaplan for I think 14 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for ours, they only made you do an exam called comp.
Okay. Like an MBME.
It's kind of like an MBME, but the only difference with that is that you're doing it in a parametric center. You have to pass it before you're allowed to write and sit and write your step one exam. And the comp exam was you get, I think, 3 tries or something. So the first try is usually done on the island, like at the end of maybe a week after your last semester on the island, you can do it. But then and then the subsequent tries, or you can be done whatever your subsequent state is. You don't have to do it on the island for those ones. But after you pass that, then you can take your step one. And you don't have to exactly wait for your step one to come out before you go into something we call IMF. It's like what's called International Medical Integrated Medical Foundation. So it's kind of like a hybrid between class and clinicals. Okay. So in that you attend some classes where they kind of like teach you more of like applications of some of the things you learned in basic sciences, like as opposed to just teaching you about this is heart failure. They'd be like, how do you know this heart failure? Okay. What are you gonna hear in this thing? You know what I mean? You've learned some of that for step one, but you're actually practicalizing it now. And then they had some of the doctors, like the clinical trained doctors, kind of like general faculty, kind of teach you that. And then you do maybe like 1 or 2 days a week rotation in the hospital, like very supervised, maybe like 2-3 students to 1 patient kind of thing. Okay. So that transitional period only lasts for about 6 weeks, where you have like the some days in class, some days in the hospital, and then after that, then you go full-fledged into clinical rotations, like core rotations, and that now is all about the hospital thing. Okay. So with that, I guess the transition for me, I didn't really feel that there was much of a gap, because I felt like every step was bridged to getting into that. The only thing that I know that people struggled with, and which I kind of struggled with at first, was when you start clinicals, unlike basic sciences where you had nothing else to do but study. Right. When you start clinicals, you're working.
It's very difficult.
So you need to find study time. Yeah. I don't know if every school does it, but my school did shelf exams.
We do.
So so you have to pass the shelf exams, and no one is going to give you a dedicated study time, because no one gives quote unquote doctors time to study. So you have to figure out how to study on the fly or make use of your free time. The mistake I know some of my friends do make is that when they start clinical, because you don't have an exam or something in the middle or something, so they just like work and party kind of thing, because they feel like it's now newfound freedom, and then they try to cram, they forget how to study for math, but they try to cram all the studying in like the last week before the shelf exam, and sometimes it doesn't really turn out that good. So the best thing that I did was starting from the start of my clinical rotation, I started studying a little bit every day. So the first thing I did was I put the Your World app on my phone, first of all. So every break I get, like during the lunch break in my clinical rotation, or during like a little downtime when I'm not seeing patients, I do like maybe 3 questions, maybe 5 questions. So that I had a goal that by the end of the day, actually doing at least 10 questions every day, every work day, and 40 questions on a non-work day. Okay. Because I don't want to say weekend, because sometimes you might work on weekends. That's true. Work day, 10 questions, non-work day, 40 questions, and then I watched online med-ed videos. That was gold.
So I have a segment of how I study for myself, and I say it all the time. Online med-ed, New World, First Aid, Step Up, whatever other book you want to use. But use online med ed and use URL. Oh, I said that's the online med ed is the Bible.
Yes. Yes.
It's the Bible.
Yes.
Definitely.
Online med ed.
That's gold.
Look, getting A's since the time we discovered online med ed, I think it made studying for clinicals and like the little things that you need to know on the wards, like it made it so much easier. Made it so much easier. So that's
so that was pretty much it for me. It was just the main adaptation for me was trying to fit in the studying into your day as opposed to waiting for when you have time, because there's no time you're gonna have time. You're back from work, you're back from rotation, all you want to do is sleep. Because you're so tired. You're so tired. So the best thing,
food and bed.
So the best thing to do is to integrate it into your day, so that by the end of your day you would have had studied. So if you're studying a little bit of questions here and there during your, because you're gonna have some downtime in the clinic. So if you're doing a couple questions there, you'd have done at least 10 questions before the day ends. So when you get home and you're sleeping, you don't feel guilty because you've done some studying for that day. And the online method, I watched, like, the videos are not that long. They're like 10 minutes video, 12 minutes videos or whatever. So I watch like maybe 1 or 2 videos a day. Maybe I watch one video first thing in the morning while I'm getting ready, and then watch one video, like, I'll be like, okay, before I start this Netflix episode, I'm just gonna bust out like 12-minute video, and then after watching that video, and then I don't really feel the stress, and then all I see is that by the end of a 6-week rotation, I've covered all the videos for that session like twice, because I've been just kind of like casually putting it into my day, and I will say that by the end of the 6 weeks, I've probably finished all the question block for that subject or specialty. Exactly. So I'm pretty much ready to take my shelf, and I don't feel like I have to cram. I don't feel like I have to cram. I have a dedicated study time, and that really worked like gold for me. So that's what I was. That was the transition thing for me. So as long as you just get rid of that mindset of dedicated study time, I feel like you'd be good.
I think pretty much all the same things. Like we were trying to do. I was really trying my best to keep up with the material and stuff like that, and for me it was a little bit more difficult because my school at the time didn't have shelves. They do now, but at the time they didn't really have like shelf exams, so I didn't really have a good way to tell how I was doing, or but I would make sure I was keeping up with the online meta videos. I was making sure I was doing URL questions, because when you get to your rotation, they're asking you questions and you have to answer those questions, and I hated being in a position to not be able to answer a question, so I was always trying to do the online meta videos and do the questions to to actually be able to answer, so when they ask a question I can speak intelligently on it. So I didn't really have a shelf I was studying towards for a portion of my rotations, but I still kept up with the material as much as I as much as possible. And like he said, if you find a way to integrate it during your day, somehow you find that by the end of the day by the end of at least like 6 weeks, you've done like a decent number. You've gone through a good portion of the material, and you don't feel as stressed in that last week. So
that's very true. I think for me, I had to set a dedicated study time because I work as well with rotation, so I have like 3 part-time jobs. So with like doing rotations and working and then sleeping and eating, because you have to do that. I think I had to be like, okay, usually what I do is when I start a rotation, I figure out what the weekly schedule is like. So how long am I here on Monday? How long, like what are the times like? So if I leave early on Monday, I know that I can have a certain amount of time to study on Monday. So then maybe I'll put more questions into that day. Like kind of what you said, work day, non-work day. But it was more so like hours of the day. Like, okay, if I'm only at the clinic for 3 hours today, at least I have the rest of the day to study, and then I can go to work at this time. So like I had to kind of have, and then also like you said, doing questions during your downtime while you're at the hospital, while you're at the clinic. Like most people have, iPads or your phone, or you can even have, this guy would use Quizlet. Like I know this guy uses Quizlet. He uses Quizlet on his phone. He just kind of like goes through, while you're just standing around, just like, okay, I can just read one thing. I just learned one thing new while I'm standing here waiting for a patient to get settled in the room. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really, really good way to look at it. Like break it up into your days where it's not like, I have 300 questions to do in my exams next week. Yeah. I did that for surgery. Never again. Because I finished surgery and I went right into internal medicine, infectious disease rotation, which I thought was going to be light. So I was like, for 4 weeks. My surgery exam wasn't until like about like a month after I finished surgery. So I was like, isn't it like it was going to be light? And it wasn't. And I had to like, cram like 300 something questions into like 2-3 weeks. And I wasn't like, you know what you do? You work questions. They take time.
Yeah.
Like, especially reading the explanations, understanding them, and then sometimes you have to come back because you may have forgotten it. So that I was like, I passed though, but I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't recommend it. It's really difficult to like cram so much into one short period of time. Okay. The other question that I have is for your rotations. Like you mentioned that you had to set up your own, and your school set up. So you stayed with Ross. I was gonna say Rush. I always want to say Rush. You stayed with Ross, and then you moved on to another school.
Yeah.
So you pretty much took on your, what do I want to say? I don't know the term that I'm looking for, but kind of is like a good thing, like they I guess they kind of held your hand, not held your hand through, but they helped you along the way. They set up your rotations for you. You knew where you were going, like you knew it was back to back, kind of like that. And you were more like, what am I going to do? What am I going to look for? How was that experience for you though? Like, I'm sure it was less stressful than it was for you, but did you find your rotations up to par? Did you feel like you were learning enough at your rotations? Were your preceptor open to teaching, or were you just kind of like doing busy work? Like, were you like a scribe? You know what I mean?
I think for the most part, majority of my rotations, I felt like I was learning.
Okay.
And one thing that every preceptor always tells you when you come in is that you learn as much as you want to learn. So they're not going to force you because they're busy. They're not going to force you to learn. They're not going to, in their head, some preceptors go out of their way to try to ask you questions. Some other preceptors feel like, I'm not going to manufacture a question and ask you if you don't understand something. It's just for you to ask me. So pretty much like you need to learn how to be proactive. Not a bootlegger, proactive. Don't ask a question just because you feel like you've been quiet for so long. You're like, is that the hard? Which are they gonna look at you like, are you stupid?
Ask me one question.
So don't feel. But again, no question is stupid. If you really think that's not, if you really are not sure that's the heart, ask it. But just don't ask a question that you know the answer to just because you're trying. Just because it's quiet and you feel like you have to say something. It's okay to be quiet, but the only thing I felt like with the transition is you need to find that fine line between being proactive and being a nuisance. And then secondly, the preceptors, a lot of preceptors say this: you're only a third-year medical student. There's no way I expect you to know even half of what I'm doing. Because I've been doing this for so long. So don't feel bad if you get the question wrong. You will get a lot of questions wrong. Oh man, like this one precept, and the thing is that I can keep a straight face and answer absolute crap.
I'm good at that too.
I keep a straight face
and just go around the question.
Answering absolute crap, and the preceptor just looked at me and laughed. Was like, "So you think your beard is gonna fool me?" I'm like, bruh, like I'm just saying something. So he was like,
what am I answering?
So he was like, go read it up. So the only thing you need to do is, yes, you're gonna answer a lot of questions wrong, but make absolute sure that you
know what the next time.
Because the only time you actually look back is when you fail that same question the second time. Like even if, like the minute that you fail, the minute they ask you, I only had a little pocket notebook I always took around with me. So if any question I got wrong, I always write the question down, and when I go home in my quiet time, it honestly only takes like 5 minutes. You can even Wikipedia it, it doesn't matter. Like it takes like less than 5 minutes. I just do a quick read on it and ready for the preceptor to ask that question again, or even ask something that builds up on that question. So that's the one major key thing you want to do, is to read up on the question that the preceptor asks.
Definitely.
And build upon it. But for the transition part, you learn quickly to adapt. You learn quickly that the first week you're gonna feel kind of awkward because you don't know what you're doing. You're kind of like hanging there. You're feeling like, I'm as useless as an IV pole.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel like you're useless. You're gonna get in the way. You're gonna have some residents that will be angry with you being there. They'll be like, "What the hell are you doing in my way? Like, get out!"
Yeah.
You're gonna have people take out their frustrations on you. I'm like, we're at the bottom of the food chain, and that's true. You're at the bottom of the food chain.
Absolutely.
So just go in there. Show up early, even though you know that like no one needs you there at 6. Well, be there at 6 if they say that's the time they're starting. Be there. Be on time. Don't think that because you're useless, you can show whenever you want, because the bad things is what they notice.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna commend you for being early, but the minute you're 10 minutes late, that's what they notice. That's when you know that they actually notice you.
Yeah.
So be there on time. Do your part. Even if your part is just standing and crossing your hand behind your back and learning, do that part. If you see something you don't understand, ask the preceptor. If you see something that he did in a certain way that is not conventional, it's not what you thought, ask him with respect, not correcting. Be like, Dr. So-and-so, I was reading so-and-so, and then they said that, you do central line through this or through that. But is there any specific reason you chose to do it this way with this patient? Because I want to know, I want to broaden my knowledge. So with that, the preceptor is more open to doing this, as opposed to being like, oh, why are you doing it this way? I thought this is the guideline to do it. No preceptor likes likes it.
Oh, so you know more than I do.
Pretty much.
So you should be teaching me.
Yeah, pretty much. So be open, be a sponge, absorb every single thing you see from preceptors, from the nurses, from the scribes, from the janitors, like everybody.
Yeah, I've said that. That's crazy. I've said that. Yeah.
In my OB-GYN rotation, I learned the most from this one nurse that just took a liking to me. She told me about the little pocket book to get. She was quizzing me on like the different things. She was telling me about pointing to different things that she's heard from other students that showed up on the shelf exams. We ended up showing on my shelf exams. So like, if you're open that way to everybody, take everyone as your teacher. Then that way you have a very smooth transition to through the rotation. Everyone will want to help you.
Definitely true.
Yeah, so you're gonna struggle the first time. You're gonna feel awkward the first week, but after that first week, you're gonna keep getting better. And then you're done with that rotation and get into a different rotation. You feel awkward all over again. Every single rotation, you're gonna feel like an idiot for the first week. But after that first week,
you get into your rhythm.
Yeah, you get into that rhythm. You see what they like, because everyone likes something different.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Another place where adaptability comes in. Some preceptors would like you to, have seen the patient before they get there, or do this before they get there. Some other preceptors would be like, "What the hell are you even talking to my patient when I'm going to introduce myself?" So the thing I usually do is at the start of every rotation, I ask a preceptor 2 questions. Question number 1 is, what do you expect of me? Like, how do I serve you better, pretty much? And then when they answer that question, the second question is, I'll be like, what do you look for in a student that you can say that he's an A student? Because I'm just a gunner like that. I want to be an A student. So I ask those 2 questions, and when they tell you those two things, write it down and do just that.
Yeah.
Halfway through the rotation, I go ask them again, based on what you've seen so far, what do you think I can improve on? Don't ask them how you're doing, because if you ask them how you're doing, they'll tell you how you're doing. They'll tell you what to improve on. Be like, what do you think I can improve on based on what you've seen for this so far from me? And then everyone has room for improvement. They'll tell you what to improve on, and then you go on from there and improve on it. So,
and that's probably comes in handy on your letter of recommendation too. Like, this guy was on it, man.
So those are the 2 things. Just ask that question at the beginning of the rotation and have a follow-up at the middle of the rotation. And for the most part, they're always very willing to tell you what they want. Don't go in there assuming that because the other preceptor liked it a certain way that he's going to like it a certain way.
It's very true.
There are some preceptors that do not follow guideline. Some of them don't because they're like, the patient didn't write textbook. A patient is a patient is a patient. So don't take offense to them not following. You just ask them how they want to do it and do it how they want to do it.
Exactly.
And
because technically you're under them. That's their insurance, and if you mess up, that's on them. So do what they want.
Right. Very true. Very true. For me, I think you said pretty much everything.
So what hospitals were? Let me just start with you. What hospitals were you in? You say you've traveled a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So I've tried to get all of my rotations in hospitals where he had his rotations, or where they had Ross students there, because I know they're going to put the Ross students with the best hospitals and the best, preceptors and things like that. So I've had to hustle to get into some of those places. So I think in Miami, while I was in Miami, I had a rotation in it was a pediatrician that was affiliated with Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
And then in Atlanta, I was mostly in Atlanta Medical Center, and I tried to get pretty much all like preceptors who I knew were good, and like all those attendings who would, either take Ross students or would take other Caribbean medical students, but were known to be, very, very good. So I did that, and then I think I had one rotation at DeKalb Medical Center for psych. That was okay too. Then from there, I think the next set of rotations I've had were, where did I have rotations next?
I think you did pretty much everything in Atlanta and then some in Chicago.
Oh yeah, and then some in Chicago. Yeah, so I've had rotations at Jackson Park Hospital. I had rotations at Cook County Hospital, and then I did some rotations in Clinton, Iowa. I know. I did rotations in Clinton, Iowa. Yeah, I've literally been everywhere and tried everything, but those are the places where I was able to land rotations. I've searched in a lot more places than that, because I searched for more places in Miami. I searched for places in DC, called hospitals in DC, called hospitals in Cali, called hospitals in Chicago, in Springfield, Missouri. Wow. So I have looked all over the place, and those were the places that I happened to have found, and I made sure that they were like the best attendings, the ones who were like really willing to teach, the ones who wanted to have me there, because that was really important to me, actually being able to learn and not just ticking off like, okay, I've done this rotation, okay, I spent the time here. That was really important to me. So I was really picky about my rotations, and that sometimes meant that I would be done a rotation and I wouldn't have another rotation for 2 weeks, or I wouldn't have a rotation for 2 months. Wow. And that was very tricky, but I had to, kind of use that time wisely. I had to use the time to study and like calling hospitals every day, like showing up to doctors' offices and being like, hey, so, yeah. So it was a bit of a hustle, but I've rotated at some of the best places. I'm glad to say.
Oh yeah, Cook County definitely is one of the best places.
That one was a hustle. I have to get. But it was so worth it. It was an amazing experience.
So great. Yeah. Because it's a lot of times, some hospitals are like, oh, we only take students from certain schools. Oh yeah. So are you affiliated with this school?
All the time. If you're not a Ross student, I'm sorry. I can't help. I'm like, well, I used to be.
Right.
You'll run into that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of hospitals will be like, no, we don't do this, or oh, we only work with a certain agency.
Yeah.
So you have to go through the agency, or oh, we don't take students from Caribbean medical schools, period.
I've heard that a lot.
We only take U.S. medical schools, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we said before. You will get a lot of no's.
But you might get a yes.
You might get a yes.
Yeah.
You never know. You might get a yes. So do your research and then just put yourself out there. And you never really know when you're going to run into someone who will be helpful or instrumental and give you information that you need. I've had at least 2 rotations where an attending would tell me, would ask me, so what are your plans after this? And I'm like, I'm going on to do, to look for a rotation in this, specialty, like internal medicine. And my OBGYN preceptor was like, okay, so who are you rotating with? And I'm like, I have no idea. And she's like, what? Hold on a second. And she'll make some phone calls and call this other preceptor and call this person and be like, okay, go to this person's office 9 a.m. tomorrow and go talk to them, about your rotation there. And I got some stellar rotations that way, even with people who don't typically take students. Yeah. And just on the recommendation from another preceptor who was like, you know, she's like one of my best students. You have to take her. You know, they took me, and I had amazing experiences, got great letters of recommendations from that. So always be on your toes, always put in the work, always be on your best behavior. You never know who's watching, you never know who's looking, who can help you out. So things like that helped me, you know, along the way. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. I mean, like, if they're going out of their way to call somebody else, they must really like you.
Till today, she, like, if I call her up and I'm like, hey, you know what, doctor, I'm looking for this. She's like, I got you. I will make some calls and I will let you know. So you just have to really.
That's amazing.
You have to put in the work and try to impress them as much as you can. And some people, you will work really hard and they're not going to be impressed. That's okay. You know, and then there are going to be some people that you will do the barest minimum and they're going to be like, wow, you're fantastic.
Right.
You know,
I just know so much. Like, I barely know anything.
Just, you know, always work hard. Always make sure you, even if you don't have an answer, make sure the next time they ask you, you know the right answers. Show that you actually want to be there. It's okay to fail sometimes. It's okay to get the question wrong sometimes. It's okay to not know, but show, like, you know, you're taking initiative and you know, you're really trying to be there, and, you know, good things happen.
That's true. I think if you love what you're going into and you love what you're doing, it's like you've done a book or you've done a boring part, you've read, blah, 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 you've passed your exam. Now it's like you're doing what you want to do. So this should be exciting. It should be like, I'm seeing patients. What's your diagnosis? What's your differential? Like, you should be like, you know, this is exciting for you, so it should be something that you want to put your all into because this is what you want to do, and you're like on that path. But I think sometimes people get comfortable and they're just like, oh, well, she wants to say, this is an easy rotation. So, like, I've rotated people where we'll probably only show up a few times.
Yes.
This is a 6-week rotation. Why did you only show up 3 times to this rotation? You know what I mean? And then call for a letter of recommendation.
Don't do that.
Do you think you're gonna get one? You know what I mean?
Don't do that.
Yeah. So it's just like, if this is what you want to do, and you've come very far. Like step 1 is not something to overlook, and you're in the clinical setting. Like, work hard, do your best, be excited, be happy to be there. Yeah. And I know sometimes, like, you will get overwhelmed. You will feel burned out. Ooh, you will feel underappreciated, overworked.
You will always feel underappreciated.
You will always feel underappreciated. Like, I feel like I've been to rotations where, like, students have been the scribes. Yeah. But we've been, like, just typing patient notes. Yeah. And, like there's this one doctor that would be like, we would take our computers into the patient rooms and we'll see the patient briefly and we'll, like, do some quick, you know, like, do as much as you can before he gets in here, because then he's just going to take over the interview and not really include you. And then he'll be like, all right, type this up. And it's like, well, can I just type it and then you can tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can learn from that experience? But right now you're just telling me what to put. Like, you'll be like, all right, go to the soap notes. All right, subjective, write this. All right, objective. You know what I mean? It's like, I was a scribe. We were scribes, and that was it. Yeah. You will come across preceptors where, like, my current preceptor, like, there would be some patient that would be like, oh, you have like 3 students in here, but well, I have to teach, so you know what I mean? And he's like, I'm teaching. Are you okay with that? I mean, if you're not, I'm sorry. I have to teach. You can leave, but I have to teach. You know what I mean? And he's just like in the middle of it. He'll be like, all right, what do you know about this patient? So you present the patient, and then he's like, how are we going to treat her? So it's like you're a part of the team. You're on the team. So what test do you want to order? You know what I mean? These are the things that you'll be doing as a physician. So he's literally like walking you through it. Like, okay, are you sure? Are you sure you want to order that? And with him, it's not like, oh, I feel stupid because I said that. Because he'll laugh. He'll be like, you sure?